Very good evening. You're watching the Round Table, and once again, it's good to have you watching the Round Table, the program which opens up the vistas in our brain, in our minds, where we interview, where we pursue a discussion with a person who has a profound knowledge in his interest, in his area of interest, as well as who has shown great perseverance, a level of perseverance, and who has achieved great heights in life, who we can take as an exemplary character. Now, this evening, my guest is a person who has been able to leave a lasting impression in the community with his selfless service. But at the very beginning, we found it a little difficult to find out what designation to be used as we introduce him, because when you look at his the superficial profile, when you look at his career and his education, you can call him a businessman. And when you little go into depth of his character, his disposition, one will definitely call him a social worker. But as far as I'm concerned, I find him a modern philanthropist with a very pragmatic approach. So without taking much time, eating up to the time, let me introduce you to Mr. Janaka Edirisinghe. We welcome you on board for the Round Table, Mr. Edirisinghe.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to the nation as well as the world over at a very crucial time in our history, particularly in Sri Lanka and also once again world over. Thank you, Mahesh, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity.
Let's see how prolific this discussion will be. Well, as I said, like when we introduced you, we found it a little difficult to find out what designation to be used, because as a co-founder, founding director of one of the massive the condominium projects in Sri Lanka, the 2000 Plaza Residency, hailing from a very respectable business family of the Edirisinghes of Albert Edirisinghe, your son of Mr. Albert Edirisinghe, one of the pioneering opticians in this country, a business magnate. We find you are a social worker as well, and a philanthropist. So how would you like to be labeled? How would you like us to call you?
Well, that's a tough one even for me. I really and truly find myself not knowing exactly which category I belong to, and if you want to really and truly categorize. But, kicking off from where you ended, philanthropist, I think that's truly my father. Mr. Albert Edirisinghe then, who has now gone into robes, and we actually refer to him as Swami Nahanse now. He's Ganegama Deva Mitta. Tata was really the sort of the philanthropist in our day, and I have watched him very carefully, what Amma and Tata gets involved. And from the very young days, we have been exposed to the temple, and we were very freely moved about with the priest, and also going into social service projects through Rotary International as well as other charitable organizations. Amma and Tata were both involved. So answering your question, maybe a combination of all that, which might not necessarily have an exact designation, but like Rotary, my motto is also service above self, and I would love to serve the nation wherever I can, and help the needy of this country.
Well, your father is definitely a person who we should dwell on talking about him, because he has been a person of exemplary character, been a big-time business magnate. Today he has got into rope. So before we really get into to some of the learnings that you have learned through your father's character, I would like to go into your life story, the profile, but instead you call this life story, you call it a life sketch. What does this underpin, Mr. Edirisinghe?
Well, a sketch is something where we kind of not necessarily structure, but just keep going. And I strongly believe in letting things unfold rather than, going after something. So that's where I think the simplicity comes, and I like to and where a story and a sketch differs, if I may say so. To me, nothing is structured, nothing is in that para, you can't quite say it's a life story, but it's something which we dwell on and go forward in life.
Well, I'm trying to show some of the very interesting photographs found in your life story, in your life sketch, where you have got involved in many religious programs, be it in Kandy, be it in Anuradhapura, be it in down south. Some of the programs that you have got involved, and which is also found in your profile. So this basically provokes me to ask very inquisitorial questions, for me to be very inquisitorial about your life. Now, I would like to get to know more about your days at the Colombo Royal School, at Colombo Royal, where you excelled in 5 disciplines, and if I have not been given misinformation, that you have won the colours of 5 disciplines.
Yeah, I was at Royal College, and I belonged to the class of 72, which I really and truly take a lot of pride in, and that's my whole sort of heartbeat comes from my classmates. And I always think that these are all samsara connections, Mahesh. You don't necessarily come together only on this birth, but it's a whole. All these guys would have been together somewhere else, and sure enough, we are not only in this birth. I'm sure we will continue until we, wrap up this. That's what we all want to attain nibbana. So at college, I was more a sportsman than anything else. I did play practically all the sports at the house level, and excelled in swimming, water polo, getting my college colours obviously, but then I went on to swim for Sri Lanka and played water polo for Sri Lanka. And I also got my Sri Lanka schools colours in athletics, and basketball I played for college, and volleyball I played for college and got colours. So those are the 5 main sports, but I was fairly good cricketer. I did play second 11 and a few first 11 matches. Was not lucky enough to get my colours, I guess, but I did pretty well there too. So coming back to that fellowship, once I got back from by the way, after college, I went on to the States for my studies. I did industrial engineering, and did my master's also after finishing my BSc, where as a student and a person of extracurricular activities, I did get a chance to be in several other organizations, honor societies, and a very special service fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega. And through that, I learned the sort of the fellowship among the students. So when I come back, I thought I must put something back into our society, and that's how we developed Class of 72, where I got all my batchmates together, and they were meeting sort of regularly, but not so formally. But we got together as an organization and formed the Class of 72 on my return, and that has played a lot of dividends, because if you ask me one thing which will always keep in our minds is the class. It's the your batchmates. It's your machang. That's the way I consider, and they're always there for you. You can be absolutely no boundaries, no problems with them, because they know you from college days. Your status in society doesn't really matter. You could be the top guy, you could be a coolie, but still when we come together, we are Royalist, class of
That
72,
together.
and we are happy to be together at all times.
When you said this is like after your school days, you left for the States in order to pursue in higher education. What were the realizations that happened to you during your stay in the US? I think that brought about a paradigm shift in your thinking towards the life and towards who you are today.
Yeah, actually thrown in out of nowhere into absolute loneliness. You learn lessons within. You start looking within, and the era I went to the States, my parents couldn't even send me any money because it was not allowed. This was pre-77. So I remember very clearly, Tata giving me a couple of addresses and saying, look, these